Yes, sure. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Participants are joining, sir. We'll start within 5 minutes, sir.
5 minutes. Okay. Is Professor Vishnu here?
Sir, he will join within 1 or 2 minutes, sir.
Okay. Okay. That's good. No worry. No worry. Ooh.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir is there, sir. Sir has joined.
Hi. Hi. Mhm.
Hello, sir. Hello,
Hi.
Professor Wong. Thank you very
Vishnu.
much, sir. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, little late.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your invitation. I am really very happy to join this very important workshop. I get a right. So
Thank you,
it's made.
Professor. Yes, it's a very, very interesting topic, and I think very few speaker on this topic and you are one of the renewed speaker on scientific publication because I already listen your presentation. It's wonderful every time. So I believe that audience will definitely get benefit by
I
listening
I
you.
I thought the whole workshop is about writing paper,
Yes,
ethical
yes, yes,
issues. So
yes,
everybody
yes.
is talking about the same thing. Isn't it right?
So, I think it's based on the different scientist experience, and
Okay.
that's why maybe more, more and more interesting
Okay.
things will come out. Thank you,
Okay.
Professor.
Now, what I would like to do, I will talk about 35 minutes and then 10
Mhm.
minutes for discussion. Is the plan okay?
Yes, yes, yes. It will be enough. It will be very great for the
Okay.
people, audience, and for
So,
us also. Thank you,
mhm, mhm.
Professor.
So
Dr. Ankur, maybe you start.
yeah.
1 2 minute more.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
We'll start within
Mhm.
2 minutes, sir.
Okay,
2 minutes.
Thank you.
Well, I forgot how to share the PowerPoint because I've
Ah,
been using it for a long
uh-huh.
time.
Eh,
I got it ready. I got it ready. How do I connect?
okay. Okay,
How do I
Professor.
how do I connect it?
I think there will be a share option. Maybe you see,
Share
Professor,
option.
in
Yeah,
your
yeah, 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 yes. Yes.
by that,
Uh,
and you are allowed, I mean, to share. So
right.
maybe only you can try right now if it is possible.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm,
Application.
mm-hmm.
Ooh, I forgot how to do it. Share.
Yeah, it's visual.
It's there,
Oh,
sir. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
oh.
Um,
Mhm. Can you see it now?
Yes,
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 sir.
yes.
But like, can you like zoom it, sir, please?
No, this is we can
Yeah.
uh,
PPT mode. Yes, sir. Yes.
now
That's fine.
correct, correct.
Okay. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Shall I start or wait for
Uh,
minutes?
Sir, just wait for like 2 or 3 minutes. Like more participants will join like the time, and then we will
Yes.
start, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Only maybe only maximum 2 minutes, Dr. Ankur.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
Only two
Uh-huh.
minutes. Actually, sir, participants from 11 to 12 countries are there. So there is
Uh-huh.
a time difference between India and there. So
Okay,
within
Okay.
a 2 minutes,
okay.
we'll join, sir. Two
Okay,
minutes
okay.
will start. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Great. Yes.
Miss Nandini, are you there?
Huh?
Yes,
Nandini, are you getting
I'm
my voice?
here, sir.
Okay,
Okay.
then
Okay.
Am
then
I
respond
with
immediately,
you?
please. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Shall I
Good
start, sir?
morning. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning,
Maybe
sir. Hi,
Professor,
sir.
Professor,
I,
maybe 1 minute she want to introduce you.
oh, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Dr. Nandani.
Uh,
Okay.
Uh, okay. So
yes, Dr. Nandini, please start. Okay.
a very warm welcome to our distinguished speaker, Professor Min Hung Wong. Good evening. Good morning, everyone. It is my utmost honor and privilege to introduce a legend in the field of environmental science, the renowned and highly esteemed Professor Min Hung Wong. Before I proceed further, I would like to extend my gratitude to our collaborators and knowledge partners whose support has made this international workshop possible. UGC, MMTC, JNVU, Jodhpur, Southern Federal University of Russia, Education University of Hong Kong, China, Agri Biotechnology Research Institute, Iran, ICRISAT, Hyderabad, ICR, Raipur, Chhattisgarh, ICR, DCR, Puttur, Karnataka, ICR, Atari, Jabalpur, AgriMeet Foundation, Bharat, Royal Society of Agriculture, India, Scarlet Blinks, India. Now, coming back to today's distinguished speaker, Professor Min Hung Wong is a true icon in his field. His name resonates globally as a pioneer in environmental geochemistry, ecological restoration, and resource recovery. His contributions have shaped the future of the very foundation of the modern environmental science, and his vast knowledge and tireless dedication have inspired generations of researchers. Professor Wong was not only been a member of European Academy of Sciences and Arts, but has also served as a Changjiang Chair Professor under the Ministry of Education China for two glorious decades, 2002 to 2023, has led as the editor-in-chief of the prestigious Springer Natural Journal, Environmental Geochemistry and Health. His academic achievements are beyond extraordinary, having published over 850 SCI papers, receiving 2 higher doctoral degrees from Durham, and most recently an honorary DSc from Southern Federal University of Russia in 2024. To add to his illustrious career, Professor Wong has been ranked 6th in the world for 3 consecutive years and 8th globally for his career-long achievements in environmental science by Stanford University's top 2% scientist list. Moreover, he proudly holds the title of #1 environmental scientist in China based on research.com's ranking for 2023 and 2024. Despite such monumental achievement, what makes Professor Wong even more admirable is his humility, kindness, and passion for guiding young minds. It is extremely rare to find such a globally celebrated scientist who is still so approachable, dedicated, and always willing to help students and researchers. His commitment to mentoring is truly unparalleled, and his work has not only pushed the boundary of science but has also inspired countless researchers to follow in his footsteps. Professor Wong, it is an absolute privilege to have you with us today. We eagerly await your insight and guidance, and I am certain that your session will leave a lasting impact on all of us. With great admiration and deep respect, I welcome you, Professor Min Hung Wong. Thank you. Over to you. The session is yours, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the introduction. And I want to use this opportunity to thank Professor Vishnu, my long-term partner and also a very close friend by now. We met each other about 3 years ago, and we met in different places in Russia, in Hong Kong, and other meetings. I'm really very grateful for his invitation. Now, I'm really very happy to take part in this very important workshop, especially for our youngsters, for our next generation that writing papers for journal publication. The idea, the experience I want to share. Now, I don't want to say anything about how good I am, and I want to talk about the mistakes I made in the past. So when you do your writing your papers, submitting your papers for journal publication, you don't have to make the same mistakes I made before. Now I'm from the Education University of Hong Kong. Professor Vishnu was there 2 or 3 times. Oops. Well, this slide is about my experience, but it has already been mentioned. So I will go to the table of contents. Very simple table of contents about different parts of a paper. Each part has its own purpose, and each part I will talk about some issues, how to write them very briefly, and then I will go on talking about choosing journals, submission, and a bit about reviewing process, revision, and so on. And at the end of the talk, I will say something about the ethical issues. Now, the talk was delivered in different places in China, in Australia, India, and other places. So I'm very happy to talk about this to the audience of this workshop. Now, if you look at a paper, a scientific paper would have all these parts. I'm sure you know about them: abstract, introduction, methods, results. Sometimes you have results and discussion combined, conclusion, discussion, and then conclusion. Now, each section has a clearly defined purpose. And normally, I think we should start having some versions of all the figures and tables of your results. I think I will start this way, and then I will write in the following order: methods, results, discussion, introduction, and an abstract would be the last thing that you can you should write. Well, of course, different people will have their own style. There isn't any general rule. Very often, people will ask me, would review papers gain more citation? So very good question. So I go back and check my own publication, and I have listed 8 here according to the citations, and the answer, the short answer is yes. Out of the 8 papers, only the first one is an experimental paper about biofertilizer, a greenhouse trial. And when I look at other titles, they're all review papers, actually. Number 2 is about ecological restoration of contaminated soil. Number 3 about pharmaceuticals, personal care products in China. Number 4 is bisphenol A in China. Number 5 is also a review on electronic waste management. Number 6 is about antibiotic-resistant genes. Number 7 about microplastics, the sources, migration, and toxicology of microplastics in soil. And number 8 is about, again, about e-waste recycling, about exporting toxic chemicals from all these more affluent countries to China in the past. But China, luckily, about 15 years ago, China determined to prohibit all the electronic waste entering into the country. Now, the one at the bottom, I thought is a good title. It's about shark fin. Shark fin, I'm not so sure whether you have tried it, but in China, in Hong Kong, used to be a very expensive dish, and people try to show off to their guests by having something expensive to treat our guests. And the title, I thought it was a very sexy title. Shark fin, a symbol of wealth and good fortune, but may impose health risk because of the concentration of mercury it contained. Now, when I look at the citation, unfortunately, it seems very low. So something you have to think about. Now, when you submit a paper as an editor, what sort of things that editors will look into? Now, first of all, very obvious, quality, whether the paper has a good science, whether it's well planned, well executed study, whether it's a good presentation. So significance and originality would be very important, and it's within the scope of the journal. So it's very important when before you submit your paper, you need to look at the website of that journal and then try to look at the scopes, the topics covered by the journal. Otherwise, it will waste your time. And then they will look at the paper, whether the paper has demonstrated broad interest to the readership. Will it cite? It's a well-written story. There's a good story about it. Whether the authors are very enthusiastic about writing the paper and so on. So when you write bearing that in mind, so when you write the paper, there are some key points we need to concentrate. For the introduction, I think it should be a strong introduction. You want to engage the reader. So first of all, you set the scene and explain why the work is important and state the aim and objective of the study. For the methods, they should be clearly written down, logically organized, a complete kind of exercise. So the idea is to provide enough information to allow assessment of results, and also other people may in the future may try to repeat your experiment or try to continue using your methods. Now, for the results, I think the section should be very clear, concise, not too long, and most important of all, we should avoid repetition between text, tables, and figures. For the discussion, it should be relevant to your study. Try to cite relevant papers all over the world. You're not doing a study in Hong Kong, in China, or in India. You want to compare your results with other people all over the world who are working on the same area. And for the discussion, you should talk about whether the aims have been achieved, and you should discuss the significance and implication of results, and then you draw your conclusion. Now, I think for a paper, we should also look at how you put down your titles. There are different kinds of titles. Now, the first one I put down here, indicative titles. It usually indicates the subject matter of a paper, but give no indication of any results you obtain or any conclusion you have drawn. So the example given here, the effectiveness of bed nets in controlling mosquitoes at different seasons of the year. So you put a bed net to avoid mosquitoes coming to bite you while you are asleep. The second one, informative titles. It tells you something about the paper. The example is bed nets control mosquitoes most effectively when used in the rainy season. Number 3 is a kind of question type title. When are bed nets most effective when used to control mosquitoes? I think people would be very interested to know the results if you have a title like that. The fourth one, main subtitles. This is not liked by editors nowadays because if they accept the first paper, they will be duly bound to accept the rest. So the example given here, the effect of bed nets on mosquitoes. And then you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 The first one may be the effectiveness when used only in the rainy season. The second one would be on another topic. Now, for each paper, you need to provide 3 to 5 keywords or short phrases, mainly for indexing. Now, some of the people would be would kind of take it for granted, saying, well, these keywords are not that important. But they are useful for indexing, so it will help people to find your papers more easily. Some journals further specify that words already in the title not be included. So here I have given an example, comparison of aluminium levels in tea products from Hong Kong markets and in varieties of tea plants from Hong Kong and India. I used to have a student from India, from southern part of India, and she went for holiday, and then I thought it would be a good idea if you can collect some samples, and then it will form one of the 5 or 6 experiments included in her PhD thesis. So keywords, I put down the keywords. Camellia sinensis is a Latin name for tea, and then infusion, the way you make your tea, aluminium, I think aluminium is repeated. Alzheimer's disease. Now, some time ago, people sort of worried about all these Alzheimer's disease patients may have high concentration of aluminium intake and then eventually affecting the brain. And then the last one, Tie Guan Yin, is a kind of tea we have in China, in Hong Kong, a popular tea. So keywords are important. Now, highlights. Certain journal would need to have this to indicate significant findings you obtain. An example given here, Wang, W-A-N-G, my former PhD student. Now she has been in the United States for more than 15 years now, since her graduation in 2014. It's about health risk assessment, about flame retardant exposure within indoor air particulates and dust in Guangzhou, the biggest city in southern part of China compared with Hong Kong. So for the highlights, we have put down some major findings. For example, the PBDE profiles, the flame retardant profiles and levels, which are related to the particle types and locations. And then the last one would be the dust ingestion was the main flame retardant exposure route for toddlers, for children who stay indoor, and because of their hand-to-mouth activities, so they would be affected most. Authorship. Now, in the past, people would put the authors, well, for scientific papers, we usually have multi-authors. I think it's very important the authors should contribute for some task like the design of the paper, the experiment, exercise, analysis, writing, and so on, in order to be qualified as a co-author. So it won't be very good if you kind of giving the authorship to somebody because he is your boyfriend or she is your girlfriend and so on. I don't think it's a good idea. So the order would reflect author's amount of input on the paper. So nowadays, for people like us, we serve as supervisor, and we could serve as the correspondent author. And very often we give the first authorship to our students who carry out all the work. So it will build up he or her publication, and then eventually she or he will become important. So now, in terms of name, full name should be provided. I think it would be a good idea to use the same names once you started publication. So don't change your name. I have given some example here. Alan J.M. Baker, my friend in the UK, and sometimes it's called Alan Baker, but there are so many Alan Baker in the world, so it would be very good if you can put all your middle names and so on. John Giese, I'm sure people will know about John Giese, an ecotoxicologist whom I worked with more than 10 years ago. Now, I have made some mistakes myself, because throughout the years, I have used different style of my name. Ming Hong Wong, and sometimes I put Ming Hong with a hyphen. Wong is my surname. Wong is my surname. And then sometimes Ming Hong connected, or sometimes I use MH Wong. So I've made a mistake because they have difficulty in linking these people together. So past few years, I tried very hard to link all these papers up. Now, certain journals would require further the contribution of each author. So for the papers here, and you can see the contributors, whether they design the original protocol and entering the data, statistical analysis, chemical analysis, writing the manuscript, and so on. Okay, abstract. Now, abstract is like a mini paper, the skeleton of your paper. But with such a short paragraph, usually one paragraph, about 250 words, I think the upper limit for most journals would be about 250. Well, some may be a bit, or maybe up to 300. Now, within this short paragraph, you have to tell people about why did you study it, how did you study it, and what did you find, and what does it mean. So the basic contents to start with, you should state the principal objective and scope of the investigation, describe the methodology you employed, a very simple sentence like you use atomic absorption spectrophotometer for analyzing your heavy metals. And then you need to talk about the major trends of your results, summarize the major trends of the results. And then finally, you should state the principal conclusion, the future application, and so on. So within such a short paragraph, it should be specific, very concise, and it could stand alone from the rest of the paper. So in this abstract, they should include no abbreviation or citations of other papers. An example is given here. So PhD student Leung, who is from Canada, actually. So she was shipped to Canada. She was 1 month old. So when she came to Hong Kong, when she was 21, I think 22, I think she finished BSc and MSc from Toronto University and came to Hong Kong. And she liked Hong Kong very much, so she stayed behind and found a job. And then eventually, she helped me with a project, a UNEP project, United Nations Environmental Program. And then after the project, she did a PhD with me. and now she is the senior lecturer at the Hong Kong Baptist University. In this particular paper, she works on heavy metal concentration, e-waste recycling, and human health implication. So this is a paper published in EST, Environmental Science and Technology. And if you look at the abstract, you can identify, you can dissect different parts of the papers. Well, the first sentence would be the recycling of printed circuit boards in Guizhou, China, a village intensely involved in e-waste processing may present a significant environmental and human health risk. And then go on to about the method we use, the major trends, the results, and then conclusion and the implication. Now, people may ask, would there be other type of abstract? Now, yes, actually, but they are not that popular. There's another type of abstract, but I like it very much actually, because it, if you look at this abstract, kind of extended abstract, introduction about 2-3 sentences, methods a bit more intensive. You have more information about the methods, results, and then conclusion. So this is another type of abstract. Nowadays, a lot of journals will require you to provide graphical abstract. I'm no expert on this, and I'm sure you can get help with drawing up the graphical abstract. My own rule is not to use too complicated graphical abstract, and people tend to make it too wordy. Don't put so many words. So this is my own rule. Now we go to introduction. The introduction would provide the necessary background information to put your work into context. In the introduction, it should be clear why was the current work performed. I think there must be a reason, the aims of your work. And the second one, what has been done before. You have to provide some literature review, telling people about the work on the same direction, what has been achieved so far, and what are the data gaps. So, and then you go on to talk about how does your paper add to knowledge. So after you identify there are some data gaps, and then it would be important that you do your experiment to add to the knowledge. For introduction, there are things you should do and things you should not do. Things you should do, you should consult the guide for authors. Set the scene, outline the problem, what are the problems you want to solve. Hypothesis, it would be good to put down some hypothesis. And when you review the literature, so make sure the literature's cited balanced, up to date, and relevant. So update, relevant are the keywords for writing your introduction, citing the references, and define and abbreviation and jargon when you first mention a particular term. Things you should not do. You should not write an extensive review of the field. Well, unless it's a review paper, you should not cite too much of your own work or work carried out by your colleagues or work that supports your findings while ignoring contradictory studies or work by competitors. You should not describe the methods in detail, also the results or conclusion in the introduction, other than to outline what was done and achieved in the final paragraph after your objectives. materials and methods. I think it's very important to provide all the experimental procedures and describe how, when, where, and what you did. You should state all the controls, all the treatments, and how many replicates you tested. And you should provide details on the QA and QC, quality assurance, quality control, for the chemical analysis you performed. You should state about the standard reference materials, the code number, where did you obtain them, whether you use blanks, and so on. Now, whenever you use hazardous materials or dangerous methods, I think you should put down some necessary precautions. If the experiments dealt with animals, any animals with a backbone, and of course human beings, you should first of all gain approval by the ethical committee. I think this is essential. And nowadays, every university, every research institute, it has its own ethical committee. When you mention published methods, I think you should cite the appropriate one, the original one, the original references or any published modifications. For experiments dealing with living organisms, when you do ecology, sometimes you use plants and animals. Any living organisms, we should provide the common name, common English name, Latin name, the genus, species, the strain, cultivars, and so on. You should briefly describe the characteristics, the age and source of all organisms, growth conditions, lightening, and so on. So for ecological experiments, it would be good to provide a map, some photographs to show sampling locations. For plant trials, for greenhouse trials, you should mention random block design, the temperature, relative humidity, light intensity, light dark cycle, the nutrient solution, growth substrates, pot size, and so on. Now, results. The results section supports the entire paper. The results section will guide the reader and points out to the trends and patterns. It also supports conclusion drawn at the end of the paper from all this numerical data and the results of statistical analysis. Things you should do, you should use figures and tables to summarize the data. You should use statistical analysis to persuade the reader. Be sure the text, figures, and tables are consistent, talking about the same thing. So we should be very careful. Sometimes when you look at the text, the description, it doesn't seem to match the figures and tables. So we should take note of this. And emphasize only important observations. And sometimes we need to put some raw data into the supplementary material section. Things you should not do in the results section, you should not include discussion and introduction, well, unless it's truly essential. You should not repeat the material that is already in the methods section. You should not repeat the legends for the figures or titles of the tables in the text. You should not repeat the data already presented in the figures and tables. So when you draw your tables and figures, you should design them carefully. Neatness counts. You should have some attractive tables, uniform kind of drawing, choosing the right the fonts and so on. And there are graphics software to help you, and some examples are given here. I'm not going to talk about tables and figures in detail. Now, discussion. Discussion tell readers what results mean and why they are important. The primary purpose is to indicate the relationships among the observed facts. you have observed different results, and then you try to explain them, and you need to interpret your results relative to the objectives stated in the introduction. Is there evidence in your data to support the hypothesis you tested? Why or why not? Now, one thing is very important in the discussion section. You should quote relevant references. We should try to avoid old references. We should try to cite update references, because we are not writing historical papers. We are writing scientific papers. We need some all new citation. Do not quote too many references for one statement. My own rule, not more than 3 or 4. Sometimes I see people put down 10 or 12 references behind a statement. I think it's too many. You need to be more selective. Now, the end of discussion, if you don't have a conclusion section, usually the end of discussion, you have a paragraph dedicated to your concluding remarks concerning number one, significance of your work based on the results you obtained, whether or not the data supports or disproves the hypothesis, and then any suggestion about future studies. So for your introduction, I think you should keep your language as simple and direct as much as possible. Acknowledgement, you need to acknowledge people who help you and so on. But one thing I want to emphasize, I think we should acknowledge the source of funding, the code number. This is very important. I remember one time my student forgot to put down the source of fundings, and then I didn't read it so carefully and then send out for publication. So without the source of funding, the code number and so on, it would not be counted when you submit your papers to the committee. The committee where the people give you the money, and they look for all these papers which are derived from the projects, and then if they could not find the code number and funding source, it would not be counted. So I almost killed my student, killed myself. References, you ought to check the guide for authors, and we ought to check the accuracy of each citation. And for the full references, we need to check very carefully. I know some people, they tend to be, they think, well, they are not important. The publishers will check them. Well, we ought to be very careful. And when you use your reference, I like to mention there are several major points. The personal communications, publication in doubt, like papers written by green groups, I think we should not use them too much. Unpublished data and submitted manuscripts which are not yet accepted. Outdated papers we mentioned, citing articles published only in the local language, in Chinese, Indian. I don't think it's a good idea if you have so many papers published in local language, because we're aiming for international audience, international journals. Try to avoid excessive self-citation, journal self-citation, and then citation from the same region. Nowadays, we have reference managed software, and I ought to mention supplementary materials which are kind of supportive for the main text. Some raw data and then some other information, but which are not regarded as that important to put in the main text. So when the paper is ready, I think you have to be very careful, checking everything. Are the terms used consistently throughout the manuscript? The numbers in abstract match the numbers in text and tables. The citation in the text match references, grammar acceptable, and so on. English editing is very important, seeking help. Nowadays, some of the universities, they provide some fundings to enable staff members to improve their papers by a commercial company. So the idea is not to rely on the reviewers or the publishers to improve your paper. Choosing journals, I'm sure your supervisor would give you a better idea. But one thing is important when you intend to submit your papers to a particular journal. Try to look at the journal website. Try to be more familiar with the journal. Look at some past papers, and then you also consider whether the journal is peer reviewed. Who is the journal's audience? What's the average limit? Average time to print, because you don't want to submit your paper to a journal and it will take 1 or 2 years before your paper would be published. What's the journal's impact factor and so on. Once you decide on one journal, I think we should submit our paper to one journal at one time. Do not submit to multiple journals. Proof reading, very important, seeking help. Cover letter, I think we ought to have a cover letter, 1 page. I don't think we should have a long cover letter. Try to convey the particular importance of your journal, of your manuscript to the journal. Try to convince the journal editor that they should publish your study. Referring process. So for journals, they have editor-in-chief, some co-editor-in-chief. Sometimes they divide their roles according to subjects, and then there are associate editors helping the journal. And then they will send them out to reviewers. They use keywords to match the expertise of these reviewers. So the main idea about having this review system, because they are crucial to quality control. They play a vital role in the scientific process. Recommendation decision, normally the editor-in-chief receive recommendation from the associate editors. Sometimes they should have at least 2 reviewers' opinion, and then they then decide whether the paper would be rejected without review, accept with minor or major revision, reject after review, and the last one, it would be not suitable at the moment, but will be reconsidered after major revision. Now, don't disappointed when you receive letters which are not that favorable. You have to sit back and try not to cry, and try to understand why what the reviewer's opinion. Now, if the paper is accepted with minor or major revision, I think we should pay attention and then try to reply, try to revise the manuscript according to the comments. I think you should reply to each comment and then tell the reviewers whether the manuscript, whether the comments have been addressed, what kind of modification have been made on which page, which line number, and so on. and we submit the paper within the deadline specified. A bit about unethical issue. I put down some unethical issue here. 1 to 6, very common: improper use of human subjects and animals, improper author contribution, multiple submission, redundant publication, data fabrication, falsification, plagiarism, and so on. I think all these you may have heard about all these. Now, more recently, I have talked to Professor Vishnu when we met last time about the problems of these people. Paper mill authors. Paper mill. You know what paper mill is? You tend to make a lot of papers. So these people, they team up with 10, 12 people all over the world, and then they try to write papers together, put their names on each paper, and then publish them. Corrupt editors. Now, because these 7 and 8 are new, so I spend a bit more time on these. So paper mill authors, the verdict is quality over quantity. They try to impress people by producing, say, 150 papers in a year. 150 papers in a year. Quality over quantity. Focus on producing a high volume of low quality papers rather than meaningful research. So recently, for environmental science, they have already identified certain people. They are kind of paper mill authors. They team up together, and now they are. I think these people are. I know some of them. They are now regretted very much about their behavior, and they also some of these paper mill authors are also called corrupt editors. Very often, when they become editors of special issues, of editors of any journals, and then they try to pass as many papers as possible. Their co-authors and so on. Lack of vigorous review. They manipulate the acceptance of papers, and then eventually they have been identified as corrupt editors. So these are the consequences: erosion of trust, resource misallocation, career impacts. So they are very worried whether they will lose their jobs. So if you don't want to become internationally known, you should be very careful about your behavior, about all these ethical issues. So it would be a nightmare if you found out in the journal and it says retracted and your name is on there, and it would be a shame. Okay, I think I should stop here now. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Professor Vishnu. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much,
Thank
Professor.
you, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Nandini, please continue.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. Thank you
Okay.
so much. It is truly a great session. It is truly a moment of great honor and privilege to extend our deepest gratitude to you. Your remarkable presence in today's session has been nothing but sort of an extraordinary learning experience for all of us. Your contribution to the field of environmental science are not just commendable but truly revolutionary, shaping the way researchers across the world approach critical environmental challenges. Your knowledge, incredible research, and dedication to academia makes you a special person, and your intellectual contribution have enlightened generation of scholars.
You're too
So
kind.
we thank you from entire AgriMeet Foundation Bharat for coming here and giving this valuable insight on this topic. A big heartfelt thank you, Professor Wong. We are beyond honored to have you had this opportunity to host you, not only virtually, but it will be a dream come true if we meet you in reality and get to learn a lot from you. And we hope future interactions with you. Thank you so much for being here. So thank you.
So
Thank you very much.
thank you, Professor Wong. Few word. I also want to say I have long association with Professor Wong. He visited our lab. I have also visited his university. He's one of the great person I realized and I found in the world, because I have association with so many scientists in China, in Europe, in India, and not only in science, but he is very great human being, which our team and I realize with his association. About this talk, I really enjoyed, because a lot of new things for me also, if I say especially ethical aspect which Professor Wong highlighted, because in recent years so many papers are retracting based on the uh, malpractices, I mean fabrication of data, and also like Professor Wong highlighted about paper mills. So this is the really concerning issue in current research, in current science. And of course the lecture is really wonderful, and our young researchers, our scientists, those who connected here, they really enjoyed a lot of messages I am seeing that they are writing and appreciating, because Professor Wong have long experience as an editor in chief, and one of the, I mean, recognized world scientists. So his experience which he shared here really valuable for me, for our group and audience, and scientists those who join. So many thanks, Professor Wong, for accepting, because he's really busy and every time I have assignments, but he spared time for us to give talk. We are really honored to listen him. Thank you, Professor Wong.
Thank you very much, Professor Vishnu. I'm really very happy to take part in this important workshop. I think, as you pointed out rightly, I think we should tell about the youngsters about some things that they are not aware of, talking about all this unethical issue. So hopefully they won't do anything like this. I think the scientific world would be a better place to work with. I'm really sorry to find out a few years ago that some of my colleagues are working on this. We used to be close friends in 1 or 2 years, and then eventually we found out, and then I stopped sort of interacting with them. I think I also wrote something to them about saying about the behavior and so on. We also talk about this. So it would be good to use this opportunity to talk to our youngsters. Yeah, thank you very much.
Sir, we
So-
are having a question here that it was indeed a fruitful session. Someone is asking, like, what should junior researchers improve in the skill of writing? How can they improve themselves? So, could you please say how
Okay.
they can improve themselves?
Right. I think I have gone through a similar kind of stage. I was young once before. I had difficulty at the beginning, and I also received a lot of rejection from journals. I think you ought to be consistent. Don't worry about criticism when you receive some feedback. You need to find out what are the deficiencies of your manuscript and then try to improve them. So try and try again, learning from the mistakes you made. I think that would be important.
And Professor Wong, little more suggestion from you to young researchers about ethical values, because many of them do not have idea what kind of consequences they can face in future. I mean, because now most of the journals are open access, so many of student, those who have no funding to support this open access charges, and they include random authors from different country to support the open access charges. Basically, this is happening in India because a lot of labs, they do not have enough funding to publish in open access. So how they can take care of this, and they have option to go for the subscription based journals like that? Maybe little bit highlight from your side, please.
Well, actually, I throughout the years, I try to avoid publishing papers which we have to pay a lot.
Mhm.
Especially now, because I'm sort of part-time, I don't have support from the university paying all these fees. So I would try to refine my paper submission to those journals which do not require any charges. So how about Southern Federal University? Whether the university will support that?
No, we have, professor, we have sanctions, so we cannot, I mean, transfer these open access charges. But still, some of our faculty, they are publishing in MGPI journals. I mean, because university and Russian government, they are accepting the
Mhm.
publications in these journals. Even some of in our group. Earlier, I published, but after your advice, I have stopped publishing in these open access journals.
Yes.
So
Yes.
probably last year and this year I do not have publications in open access. But sometime even the good journals, they have this kind of I mean, charges. So in that case, yeah. But I think a lot of journals, those who are based on the subscription, we can try. So thank you, professor.
Mhm. Yeah, thank
Maybe
you.
anyone else have some question? Dr. Nandini, please.
No, sir. I think sir has discussed all the topics. And sir, once again, we wish you good health, happiness, and a long life ahead. Sending you love and gratitude all the way from India. Thank you so much, sir.
So
Okay.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you
I
so
hope to
much,
see,
sir, for joining.
yeah,
Thank
hope
you
to
so
see
much.
you in the
Thank you.
future in person. Okay.
Yes, professor. Thank you. So,
Okay.
okay, thank you, professor.
Okay, bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye,
Have a
sir.
great day, sir. Thank you.
Everyone can leave.